Okay, in this video, I'm going to give you an alternate way to manage your sprints. So I'm back here at the sprints board that we created in a previous lesson, and this is a sprints board that was created using ideas. What I'm going to show you today is a way to create a sprint board that uses the CoSchedule Projects tab. And the main difference between ideas and projects, they are both going to give you a Kanban view grouped by status of project. But the difference with the project view is that these are actually scheduled projects. So you can see that we're actually working using the CoSchedule calendar here. So what's reflected in my calendar in terms of scheduled projects is also going to be reflected in my projects view. Now, some agile teams prefer to work with projects in an unscheduled way, meaning that there is no scheduled publish date on the calendar, and they want to work on the project till it's done and then move it to the calendar at that time. Now, that's the workflow we covered in the previous lesson. This lesson is going to be sort of the opposite of that, where we're going to pick a date in the calendar. In the case of these projects, we have picked Friday as the publish date. And we're going to specifically work on this scheduled video project down here. And we're going to work on using an agile workflow to complete this project based on the scheduled date. So what we're going to do to start with is go back into our settings area, calendar settings, and go to statuses. And instead of creating idea-based statuses this time, we're now going to modify our calendar-based statuses. So the main thing you need to keep in mind with calendar statuses is there are three status types. There is a draft status type, a scheduled status type, and a publish status type. And that is because when we are working on the calendar, statuses mean a lot more. There's certain activity and behavior attached to statuses. Draft means it will not publish, will not go live. So if we have social messages scheduled on that status or on that project, we have a WordPress post or some sort of an integration like MailChimp attached to that project. If it's in the draft status, it will never be sent, it will never go live. Scheduled means it will be sent and it will be live, but the date of that, the time of publish has not been reached yet, right? So that I scheduled to publish next week, it's going to end, and we have 7 days until next week, obviously, it's going to be in the scheduled status. Once the next week comes and it actually goes live at the date and time specified, it's going to switch to a published status. So for most part with your workflow, you're going to create, the majority of your statuses are probably going to be draft-based statuses. They're all going to be happening before the project is scheduled. So let's go ahead and mimic some of these statuses. We can see the statuses we created ahead for our idea-based sprint: create, review, test, to schedule. And let's just modify a few of these. So we'll create status. And we're just going to modify the ones that are here so we don't end up with a bunch of extra ones. We're going to just modify this to review. Fits better with our previous system. And then we're going to add test, and that is going to be a draft status. And that is going to go to review. And then to schedule, we're not going to actually create that status here because we already have an actual scheduled status. So it's actually going to go live on that date, so we don't really need to do that. So let's head back to our calendar. Okay, so this scheduled video project is going to be in the create status that we created before, and all of the statuses that we just made are now available here in this project. So let's make our Kanban board inside of the Projects tab. Again, these statuses have been created. In this case, we're not going to need to create a save view, so it's a little simpler. We already have the Kanban workflow that we want to mimic. So I'm actually going to move this project to published, since we did that one last week. So that is the video project that we created using the lesson ahead of time. So we're just going to ignore that one for now. We're going to start working on this scheduled video project. So we're going to need to create a task template to manage our sprint for this project as well. But the only difference is we want to create our template based on when the project publishes. And that means that we're going to be, for this project, we're going to pick a publish date, which in this case is this Friday. And we're going to work backwards from there. We're going to assign our tasks in a backwards fashion. So it basically works just the opposite of what we did before. We're going to call it video sprint template. And just for ours, I'm just going to, and just for our own sake, in this example, I'm going to add this publish date behind it. But more than likely, you're probably not going to have two types of sprint templates. You're going to have one template depending on which direction you choose to work. So we're going to ignore weekends here. And I'm going to go ahead and create a few tasks like I did last time. I have duplicated a lot of the same elements from the task template that we were using in the previous example. So, but just like the task template and the sprint workflow that we created on the idea board, this one follows a similar pattern. The biggest difference you're going to see here is that tasks are scheduled based on the publish date. So this task is due 3 days before publish. With our other template, tasks were due 3 days after the project start date. So rather than scheduling relatively based on the beginning of the project, we're now scheduling relative to the date we want to publish this project. This can be a powerful way of working for marketing teams and projects where you have very regular publishing cadence, such as blogging or content output scenarios. This video project is going to have the same type of process where once it is completed for rough edit let's actually make this project owner, by the project owner, it is going to be prepared for review. This review is going to be submitted by myself, the project owner on this project, and it is going to require approval by Connie Compliance. This is all happening 1 day before we publish this video. We also have the exact same task rules that we had before, which means that when this project is submitted for approval, the project status is going to change to review, and the owner of this project is going to become Connie Compliance. So this is very similar to what we do. I won't spend a lot of time covering that. Those steps are duplicates of what happened on the idea board. So we will close that template and we'll go ahead and apply that template. Now, just like when you're applying a template based on a start date, you'll be able to customize the date. This is automatically syncing with the publish date of this project, right, which is September 27th at 3 p.m. Well, we have no reason to change that. We're going to complete this sprint by the 27th, and this piece of content is going to go live, so that date looks perfect for the purposes of this project. Now, all of those items have been scheduled, folks have been notified, and these things are ready to go. If we do jump over to our calendar, we're going to see all of this stuff on the active calendar. If I hover over this project right here, on the calendar, I will see all of the tasks in association with that project. So that's one really nice advantage of working on your projects in this way, is that you do have a very nice single calendar record, yet you're able to work and think about things in a very agile methodology. But the main action here is going to happen on the Projects tab. As I jump into this project and I start checking off some of these tasks, we will see the burn down chart continues to calculate just like it did before. Once I submit for review, the activity that we pre-scheduled in happens. This project becomes changes to ownership to Connie Compliance. She is now owning this project. We are now waiting for her approval on this project, and our Kanban board has automatically reflected this change. As we go along, and she does approve this project and decides to move it into testing. And there we have it in the test phase. And then we will approve for scheduling, and it will actually move into the scheduled phase, which means that automatically on this 27th at 3 p.m., this project will be published. And we see our task burn down chart has this project at 100%. Now, one thing I want to point out with this project is that you may want to use the required tab on some of your tasks. This will require all tasks to be completed within your workflow in order to move something to publish. Basically what this does is it helps prevent you from pre-publishing, or your team from publishing work accidentally that is not completed. So that's a nice little safeguard. So this is a very quick overview. We covered everything here much more in depth on the Idea tab. Main difference here is that we are comparing Projects tab versus the Ideas tab, and the concept of scheduled work that you're working backwards from versus idea projects, which are based on your project start date. So two really good options for your agile workflows and great ways to use the Kanban boards inside of CoSchedule.